feel the broken body.
Hello and welcome to the FITz and Healthy podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lauren Fitzgerald, and today I have kind of an unplanned episode. So originally I was going to be talking with someone else that had to have a last minute change of schedule. So today I'm going to be talking about something that I think that pretty much almost everyone can relate with: emotional eating and addiction. Now, maybe you don't have a problem with emotional eating or addiction, but if you don't personally, I guarantee you 100% sure that someone that you know and love does. And I'll just start off by coming to you with a humble heart and letting you know that I know a lot of you follow me because I'm a medical doctor, because of my YouTube channel and the dance fitness thing. But I'm coming to you with a humble heart saying, I don't know it all. I haven't figured it all out by any means. The more I learn, the more I realize that I don't know. All I do know is that I have a heart to truly help people. You guys hear me say this all the time. I really, the older I get, the more I realize that to have a life that you love is rare and it's a blessing. And I truly want every single person that crosses my path, whether it be in person or on social media, I want them to know that that's possible for them. And so I talk about anything and everything that I personally have experience with or knowledge with. And emotional eating and addiction is something that I have personal experience with. For a lot of you that don't know, I've never had an addiction with alcohol, but I have a lot of experience with living with a former alcoholic. And I've seen it in some loved ones and family members. And emotional eating is something that I actually struggle with. And I really haven't talked about it a whole lot. I talk about it in my private groups that I coach online. But I don't think I've ever actually talked about it on any open platform like my podcast or Facebook Live or whatever. So I'm going to talk about it. And I'm sorry, not sorry. I might get emotional. But the fact is that you might be a 20-year-old, or I think of my youngest fan that I can think of. Well, maybe not the youngest, but I realize that I have people that follow me that are all ages, from young females that dance with their mom or dad with me. Actually, I don't know of any young females or young kids that dance with their dad, although I'm sure it's possible. But I love getting videos when people are dancing with their kids to my videos, right? But I also realize that I have people that are decades older than my parents that follow me. And I appreciate every single one of you that have followed me and supported me along the way. But I want you to know that this information is going to help you in some way, depending on what stage of life that you're at. I'm going to speak to you as if I am that mentor in your life, if you are a young person, because this information literally can change the trajectory of your life. If you're in your mid 30s or mid 40s, most of you know that I'm 39. I'm going to be 40 next January. So I'm right in the middle of that. Just know that if you can relate to this, there is hope. But it's not easy, but nothing good in life comes easily. And if you are someone that maybe like my parents' generation, I want to give you hope, because I know that a lot of you have given up because you've done every single fad diet. You've lost weight and you've gained it back, and you've lost weight and you've gained it back. And I want to tell you, I just want to give you hope. Okay. So this information, it's going to be educational, but it's also going to be emotional. And I'm going to first start off by telling you a story. So I remember, and I know my parents listen to my podcast. And so I shout out to my parents. You did an amazing job. I'm so grateful for the good and the bad, because there's no such thing as perfect parenting. And those of you that are parents out there, please know that you really have the most important job in the world. And those 17, 18 years, or some of you more than that, that you spend parenting your children, whether they be biological children or stepkids or adopted kids or whatever, those are the most important years, because you are shaping what kind of adults are going to run our world. And I'm so grateful for my parents. But one of the things that I wish they would have been more mindful of is the emotional relationship that we have with food. And I remember some of my earliest memories are we had the first part of my life, the first 8 years, I was in Brownwood, Texas. A lot of you have never heard of Brownwood, Texas, because it is a very small town, smack dab in the center of Texas. I thought we were moving to the big city when we moved to Waco. Waco, Texas is not big, just for the record, but I really did think that it was a big city. And so Triple T Grill, I remember this place because not every day, but many days after school, my mom would take me and my brother through the drive-through and treat us to whatever. Typically, it was a diet cherry lime soda, or some sort of ice cream or something that was related to food for something that we did well. Right. And that is where I wish those of you that are parents, if you reward your kids with food, I'm not here to judge you, but I'm here to say, hey, it's not too late. Let's start reversing that, because the emotional relationship that we start to have with food really comes from our childhood. And I remember celebrating with food, even though I didn't realize I was celebrating with food. And it starts this unhealthy relationship, because we have a change of our emotional state. And then the reward, is it Pavlovian, that did the thing with, was it, I think it was rats, where he basically, taught them when to call for a treat. No, it was dogs, I believe. Anyway, basically you're rewarded with food with an emotional state. And so that creates this really not so healthy relationship that we have with food, because food is vital for us to live, right? We can't live without it. And then it can turn into a food addiction. And so the reason why I titled this Emotional Eating and Addiction is because at the end of the day, if you have an emotional eating issue, you probably have an addiction to food. That the brain chemistry that happens in addicts. So of course, when we think of addicts, we think of illegal drugs, right? But there are actually addicts of all different things. But there's just that stigma that you have when you hear the word addict, right? But the fact is that an addict is someone that partakes in an activity despite knowing that there's going to be harm from that activity. And, when I heard that definition, I was listening to an audiobook. I don't even remember which audiobook it was recently. But when I heard that definition, it hit home, because there are plenty of foods that I know are poison. And I talk about this all the time. Food is either good or bad for you, right? But I'm not perfect. And I will tell you that when I consume food that's bad, typically it's sugar, and it's not every day by any means, but when I consume food that I know is not good for me, there is a chemical reaction in my brain. And I've never done illegal drugs before, but I imagine that it's the same sensation that goes on with people that are addicted to illegal substances like heroin and alcohol. Well, alcohol's legal, but you know what I mean. So I'm about to lead this group with one of my mentors and one of my closest friends now, Melissa McAllister. We're calling this group the Fundamental Approach. And we led a huge group about a year and a half ago. We called it the High Fat, Low Carb Beta Test Group. There were almost 1,000 people in this group. It was huge. It was overwhelming. But we had so much success from people in their stories. Not, of course, people lost weight, but there was diabetes that was being reversed, hypertension that was being reversed. People's autoimmune disorders were starting to calm down. Like it was freaking cool. I know that this way of eating works for so many people, not just in the weight loss journey, but in just becoming healthier, right? Because that's one thing. When I became a parent, I was a step parent starting in 2009. So I was 29 years old, and that was one thing. Hannah, of course, you guys, a lot of you know Hannah. She's officially my ex stepdaughter, but I still call her my daughter, nonetheless, because I'm no longer married to her dad. Anyway, I knew how important those adolescent years are in a female, and not just females. I mean, it's important for dudes too, but I can only speak for the females. The adolescent years are really hard, and there's so much pressure to be thin and to be beautiful and to be perfect and to be blah, 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 blah. But if you have even just one person breathing some truth into you and support and love and unconditional love, it's a game changer. And so one word that I never used, and I spoke with Hannah about this often, was I don't care if you're skinny or fat. I want you to be healthy, because trust me, I've taken care of a lot of unhealthy skinny people. So the weight, obviously there are certain things that come along with obesity, but just if you're someone that's thin, that doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy. And at the end of the day, everything that I do, I just want to give you guys tools so that you can become your healthiest, happiest you. Because I really don't believe that you can enjoy life to its fullest if you aren't at your healthiest and happiest. Or not healthiest and happiest, but if you're not on the road to becoming healthier and happier every day. Does that mean that every single day I wake up and I'm like, I'm healthy and happy? No, I've got down days too. But for the most part, this journey that I've been on has been life-changing in so many ways, but it's definitely made me dig deep. When I first decided to partner with the company that I partnered with to do the health and wellness coaching online, I knew that I liked the feeling that I got when people told me they lost weight in my class or dancing with me on YouTube. Like honestly, it was, looking back, I thought it was, I just want to help, but there was some selfish, like I liked that feeling, right? Man, I had no idea how much that decision would just change everything in my life. And I think the biggest change that has happened since saying yes to that opportunity 3.5 years ago is the change that's happened internally. And a lot of people have heard me. So those of you that have followed me and watch all my lives and watch all the podcasts, this is not going to be the first time that you've heard this. But the fact is that if you don't deal with the root cause of your issues, why you're emotional eating, why you're taking heroin, why you're drinking to excess, you'll never get down to being your healthiest you, right? And emotional eating, I believe, ruins just as many people's lives as people that are addicted to illegal substances like heroin, because food, unlike heroin, and I don't know why I'm using heroin. That's one of the most addicted illegal drugs that I have seen in patients and taken care of. And I know how hard it is to break that addiction. But the longer that you are and your brain is exposed to all of the chemicals that are in the standard American diet, the harder it is to break that addiction. And I've seen that time and time again be true in patients that have addictions to illegal substances and legal substances. The longer that they have been in that addiction, the harder it is to break. And so first things first, I want to speak to the young people that follow me and are on this journey with me. Man, I wish that I would have had someone speak truth into me when I was in my young 20s and tell me how important it is to get a hold of this relationship that you have with food, because you can't go without food. Obviously, there's certain substances that people are addicted to that once you get off of it, you don't, I mean, you don't need it to survive. You need food and water to survive. So you have to learn how to have a healthy relationship with food. Um, I I truly believe, because there are some people like, I'm thinking of one of my closest friends. She's never walked in the shoes of having emotional eating. Like, she doesn't understand when someone has to always eat, everything on their plate. And she's never had problems with her weight before. I think to those people, and I'm like, man, what are they doing differently? And all I can think is that, it has to do with up here. It's the root cause. I remember when I first got back from, so those of you that don't follow me, my first place that I ever practiced anesthesiology post residency was in northern Japan. And for the most part, I was on a military base. For the most part, you have to get medical clearance to be stationed over there. And if you want to bring your family, they have to be medically cleared too. So while we had some unhealthy people, don't get me wrong, there were always some people like, how did you get clearance? But for the most part, a majority of my patients were relatively healthy. And I was there for 3 years. And then I got back to the United States. And the first place that I practiced medicine was Oklahoma. And I was in Oklahoma for 5 years. And man, the obesity and the health problems, it's just rampant. And I can't help but think that so many of these people, it started from their parents and their parents' parents. And at some point in our history, our relationship with food just got jacked. And I can't help but think that it has everything to do with when all of the food started becoming processed, and we started to believe the lie that a low-fat diet is the best way to go, and you're supposed to have margarine instead of butter, and all that kind of stuff. And while I'm not going to get into those nitty-gritty details of why I don't believe that anymore, I do believe that the food that we've been eating is creating addictions. And the Oreo addiction. I'll use this as an example, because if you understand that it's more than just you don't have the willpower, because I think that so many people feel shame when they're overweight because they're like, I don't have the willpower to say no. Actually, I'm here to tell you that there are scientists that are hired by these big food companies that literally are paid very well to figure out how to make this particular food product get into your belly and get into your body so that you crave more of it. It's the perfect business model, right? But the fact is that this fake food that's full of preservatives and additives and artificial colors and stuff that wasn't meant to be put in our body, it gets into our body. It messes with the gut biome. So the gut biome, I'm going to be speaking more about this on future episodes. It's at the root of everything, guys. And the more and more I learn, the more and more I'm like, holy crap, we have totally effed ourselves. I mean, just those of you that may have been born by C-section, it starts literally the moment that you entered this world. If you were born by C-section, you're missing out on the first inoculation of good bacteria from your mom's vaginal canal. Like, literally, it starts off. We've seen that babies born by C-section have worsened immune systems, and it starts with the gut bacteria. Isn't that crazy? Like, some of you have already known this and heard this, but literally, it starts there. And then we go on, and then we start to teach our kids that, oh, it's okay. Just drink Gatorade. You're at a soccer game. You need electrolytes. Although you're giving them colored dyes they're causing their ADD, and you're giving them chemicals that are causing autism, and all of these things that I truly believe have everything to do with what we're eating. And then they create these really unhealthy emotional bonds that we have with food. And I'll be the first to admit that, man, I still sometimes struggle with emotional eating. And I'll look back to when I was going through divorce and I was moving, and I was grieving a loss of a friendship. And I think back to some of the ways that I dealt with that grief it was man, it was emotional eating. And I'm here to tell you that it's okay. It's okay. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you don't have self-control, but I do want you to, one, admit that, you know what, you're right, Lauren. The current relationship I have with food is not healthy. And it can look anywhere from you binge eat to anorexia to you eat something and then you end up working out for 4 hours because you feel guilty from it. Like there are so many different ways that an emotional eating disorder can present itself. And I definitely, I'm here to, one, give you hope, because if this is you, if this is you for 1 year or 2 years, it's probably going to be easier to reverse that. If this has been you for 10, 15 years, it's going to take a little bit of time. If this has been you your whole adult life and you've been battling this for decades, I'm here to give you hope, but know that it's not going to happen overnight and you do need support. And the emotional eating, there's going to be a part 2 to this interview, I'm not interviewing anyone, but part 2 to this episode, where I'm going to actually interview one of my closest friends, who she actually has been recently, in the last about year or so, been openly sharing her own battle with emotional eating and binge eating. And I think that there's something to be said about when you know you're not alone, there's comfort in it, right? And when you know you're not alone, but there's an answer to it, and it's not perfection, but it's one, acknowledging you have a problem, right? A lot of you guys know that my ex-husband was, and I'm pretty sure still is, sober, but he was a highly functioning alcoholic. And his first day in AA, the first step was admitting that you have a problem. And any kind of addiction we have, you have to get to the root of it. Those of you that look down on people that get therapy, I challenge you to open your mind to it, because I'm telling you right now, if you're battling addiction, whether it be food, substances, maybe prescription drugs, that's a huge topic that we could just fully focus on a future episode, or alcohol. It's covering something up. It's covering something up, and you have two choices. You can acknowledge the fact that you have a problem and ask for help, or keep doing what you're doing. There is nothing that hurts my heart more than seeing someone that I care about just slowly circle the toilet because of their addiction. And, I mean, I have a couple people that come to mind right away when I say that it's just, it makes my heart sad. But emotional eating can essentially have the same outcome as someone like I'm picturing someone right now who's very near and dear to my heart, but has a severe alcohol problem. And she knows what she needs to do, but she constantly is telling me that it's harder said than done, and it's making her hate her life. It's quickly killing her. And I think about people that have emotional eating issues, and it's doing the same thing depending on how severe your addiction is. I think about the people that are on the extreme of emotional eating, right? Emotional eating can literally lead to an early death by either morbid obesity or, on the opposite spectrum, the anorexia. My cousin, I believe she got down to like 75 pounds, I believe, and had to be admitted to the hospital. Otherwise she was going to die. And these are all stemmed from emotional eating issues that are covering up something way bigger. So why did I want to talk about this today? Because My good friend Melissa and I are about to do another group, and it's in the spirit of the group that was almost 1,000 people. We're actually we're limiting it to 99 people, because there's something mental about if you're in a group bigger than 100 or 100 or more, you think, oh, I'm just a number, because we don't want anyone to feel that way. But this group, it's going to be pretty amazing, because yes, we're going to teach you how to look at nutrition one way. We're going to teach you all about how your body works, so that you understand why we're telling you why I don't want you to eat certain foods. And in fact, I've already scheduled the first interview with one of my favorite authors in the nutrition niche, so that I can educate not just the people in this group, but my listeners as well. But this group is intended to help those of you that really you haven't figured out how to make this whole healthy lifestyle work. And the emotional eating side of it is real. And, I have to give credit to Beachbody, because one of their most successful programs, it's called 2B Mindset. And while I'm not 100%, like, there's certain things about the program that I'm like, not 100%, but I'm humbled enough to know that, there's no one right or wrong way of eating. And if one way works best and gets a person super healthy and happy and breaks the chains of the emotional eating that so many are locked in, awesome. But the 2B Mindset is an amazing program. It launched this time last year, and it was a game changer for a lot of people, because it focused on those that had emotional eating issues. And so we're going to take that approach. It's going to be a fun group. We're calling it the Fundamental, and FUN is capitalized and mental is capitalized, because at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying something, you're not going to do it. And I've said that from day one with dance fitness. A lot of people that hate exercise find dance fitness and are like, okay, this is exercise I can do. And why is that? Because they have fun doing it, right? There are some people that enjoy getting their asses kicked at CrossFit, and they think that's fun. Awesome. But this group is going to be fun, but it's going to be mental, and we are going to talk about food addictions. We're going to talk about the emotional eating. We're going to talk about different ways in which we can handle it. And, there's no right or wrong way, but I 100% know that the one thing is true is that having a community that is like-minded, that is positive and supports you along that journey, learning how to have freedom from food, that's the game-changing, the magic sauce in so many people's lives. One book that I would recommend is a book written by Melissa Hartwig. And a lot of you guys have heard me talk about the book Whole30. It's there's so many elimination diet books out there, but it's a good one. And they've got a lot of free resources. When I used to practice medicine, that would be a website that I would direct people to, because there are the free resources. People like free. But she wrote a book called Food Freedom. And I love it because she actually used to be a drug addict, and she deals with the emotional aspects that people have with food, and the grip, the vice grip that food has with so many people. And it's not like heroin. If you get clean, like you can survive without heroin, but we can't survive without food. So the only alternative is to dig deep and realize, like, okay, I have an emotional eating problem, and how do I fix it? And you know what? Give yourself grace along that journey, because man, my emotional eating has gotten so much better, but I still have room for improvement. I still, when I feel stressed, is when I will eat to eat an emotion. And when I feel sad and when I feel happy. So like, but it's not all the time. So I look back I'm at a place where I can give myself grace and say, you know what? Um, you know, I wish that I wouldn't have eaten said whatever, because it woke the cookie monster, the sugar monster that's inside. And that sugar monster, it takes a while to put that dragon back to sleep. Sugar is, you guys, if you knew the studies behind sugar, like it's crazy to me that the processed sugar, what it does in our brains, um, it's a more powerful drug than cocaine, more powerful than heroin, but we're allowed to have it put in all of our food. Like it's literally, so those of you that follow me on Instagram, my Instagram handle is at Club Fitz Fitness. I just, the other day, I took my phone to the grocery store and I did a bunch of little Insta stories, just teaching people, like, I don't want you to look at the label and look at how many calories or how many grams of carbs. I want you to look at the ingredients, because the sooner that you can learn that, you know what, if the ingredients are full of, let's just say like MSG, guys, man, if you understood all that MSG is doing to your body, maybe you might need to hear it 10 times. Maybe you might need to hear it 100 times before you're like, okay, I'm not going to eat it anymore. But sugar is one of those things, like, I know what processed sugar does to you, but it's like a drug. It works in the brain like a drug. And the moment that I give in to that sugar monster, it awakens that beast, and it takes a while to put him to sleep. And I struggle with it. Be totally honest with you. I struggle with it. I am so far from being perfect on my journey. And I'm learning to love myself and give myself grace through it, because there's definitely that side of me that's like, I feel guilty because I feel like I should have it all figured out, right? I've got so much freaking knowledge in this brain of mine. It's dumb. Why would I voluntarily consume a food that I know is not good for me? But when it comes down to it, the addiction side of emotional eating is real. And you know what? I know that I'm so much better off, and I've come so far from where I used to be, but I legit had major issues that I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever really shared this with anyone. Legit binge. There was, I laugh. This is not laughable. I'm sorry. I take that back, because people that suffer from bulimia, legit, that's not good. But I hate throwing up. And there was a brief, and I say brief moment in my young adult life that I tried to be bulimic. And I can't believe that was even, I don't know. But I tried, but I hate vomiting. It's like the worst feeling in the world. And I literally thought, like, I don't know how people do this. Like but that's what a really jacked up relationship with food leads to, right? So if this is you, whether you're on the extreme side or maybe you just have kind of a small problem, I beg of you to ask for help, because I promise you, whether you let me coach you, or maybe you have worked with a coach in the past and you liked working with him or her, that's what we're here for. And your coaches are not perfect. I'm 100% very far from perfect. But I do know that I have a heart. I want people to get to a place where they don't feel like the shackles are on them 24/7 from food. And, sometimes I feel the shackles come back, but I can 100% say that the amount of time that those shackles stay on me and how frequently they get on me are less and less the more and more I go along on this journey. But I wouldn't 100% be able to say that if I hadn't have chose to be a coach and to be open to what this whole coaching thing is. It has truly changed my life in more ways than I could have ever imagined. Like I said, I knew I liked how I felt when someone told me that they lost weight because of me. It was ultimately a selfish reason. I mean, that's why I started teaching the class in Japan. There were no classes that I liked. So I was like, well, I'll just teach it because I want to benefit from it. But then it became way bigger than just about me. And when you're in your purpose, man, there's nothing better than that. But I wanted to share this with you guys because this group, it's going to be game changing. And, we're going to deal with some emotional stuff. And we're also going to battle some common lies that we tell ourselves that are completely mindset and mental blocks. I know a lot of people use the excuse, oh, it's summer and, we're having family vacation or my kids are home or, all of the different excuses that I hear. And the fact is that, you're not guaranteed tomorrow. And whether you embark on bettering yourself today or the summer or the fall or whatever, like you deserve to live a life that you love. And if you're limited by health conditions because you have a history of making wrong decisions when it comes to your habits of not exercising, of eating poorly, not supplementing, which you guys all know, I believe that the trifecta of exercise, nutrition, and supplementation are the keys to you being your healthiest. But I also think that mental health needs to be that fourth pillar, if you will, because, I know a lot of mentally unstable people that have the exercise, nutrition, and supplementation down, but their relationship with food is really unhealthy and oftentimes will lead to other bad things. So, if this is helpful at all to you, please share it. Please reach out to me if obviously if you're already a coach, this doesn't apply to you. And if you're already working with a coach, reach out to them, share this with them and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can I get some help and coaching just in the emotional eating side of it? But if you're not a coach or working with a coach yourself, I would love to help guide you this summer. We start June 17th. So June 17th, 2019. So those of you that are listening to this podcast way in the future, sorry. But day one starts the 17th, but we will prep the week before. So we'll start June 10th. And it ends August 12th. So it's an 8-week group and you're going to learn a lot. You're going to make new friends. You're going to dig deep in your own emotional issues. And of course, I'm not a therapist. I'm a doctor, but not your medical doctor, all that kind of good stuff. But I have no doubt that this group is truly going to be, we're calling it the fundamental approach because we're getting down and dirty to the fundamentals of how to be your healthiest, happiest self. So that being said, I appreciate every single one of you for following me, for sharing all of my stuff, for those of you that have let me coach you, whether presently or in the past. I appreciate you greatly. Those coaches that are either on my team or just, in the coaching world in general that truly want to help other people. You guys, it's the best job in the world. Sometimes it can be thankless, but truly there's no way that we are going to help this crisis that's not just in the United States, it's all over the world. There's no way that we're going to reverse it if we don't band together and help each other. And the emotional eating side of it needs to be addressed. So thank you so much. I want to end reminding you something that you've been reminded of throughout this whole episode is that life is precious and you deserve to love this life that you're living. So thank you very much. I'm grateful for each and every one of you. And I will see you on the second part of this episode where I interview my good friend about this particular topic. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time listening so much. If you enjoyed this episode of the FITz and Healthy podcast, can you please go do me a favor and go subscribe whatever platform that it is that you listen to podcasts. Leave a review. We read every single review, and we appreciate the time that you take to leave your thoughts and opinions. Now, also remember, while I am a medical doctor, the information I provide here is not intended to provide medical advice or a professional diagnosis, opinion, treatment, or services to you or to any other individual. I am providing general information for educational and informational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for medical or professional care. You should not use this information in place of a visit, call, consultation, or the advice of your physician or other healthcare provider. The information I share is not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose any disease or medical condition. If you believe you have a medical emergency, just call 911 immediately or your physician. Now, enough of that medical legal jargon. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate your time. Now go live a FITz and healthy life.